Alright, let me tell you something. In real life, in our own houses, using too much yellow lights and too much warm lights is kind of just a no-no, because it will make our atmosphere kind of boring. So let me just choose a colder value for my temperature, for example 4500, okay, and we get this kind of whitish, more whitish look, and we can add more temperature in other spots. Now for the next phase of our tutorial, I'm going to move these rec lights behind my windows to the side. We're not going to use them for our nighttime, so I put them to the side like so, and I go inside the building, and in our dark spots, for example the kitchen, I can just add a rec light in my kitchen above my oven. So I go to lights and add a rec light here. Okay, I change the angle like I did many times before, and I choose an appropriate scale size, and for the temperature I put 3200, okay, so that it gives me a warm look, and I put these on 1 and 0. Okay, let's just move it to the back and a little bit higher there. Okay, so I can tweak the intensity. Okay, now we get this warm light at the side, and I also have this lamp here. I can just put a rec light for this lamp too, so that it gives me the contrast that I talked about minutes before. So I add a rec light here. Let me just choose it again. Okay, I put it here, and I'm going to change the angle so that it faces down, and I change the scale and size. Okay, and I need to move this higher here, and I need some warmth, so 3200 for the temperature. Okay, this is what I wanted. So we have some contrast now, and I also need to decrease the attenuation radius. I don't want it to light up this whole building, so I'm going to decrease it, for example 320. Okay, that would be enough, and let's just take a look. Okay, so the problem that we have here in this scene is that our ceiling is kind of too dark, and we also have some dark spots in the corners as well. So some spots are not adequately lit, and that is not how we do in real life. So we need to find a way to make our ceilings and those dark corners more lit. So we can start by choosing these rec lights and increase the indirect lighting intensity. For example, if I put 10, too much, maybe 5, you can see that our ceilings are kind of more lit and brighter, and even the corners as well, and this is more realistic. So be careful about your ceilings and these corners, and no place in your interior should be too dark. So even if I let's just put 8 here, okay, better. See, now it looks more realistic and beautiful. And I want to increase the contrast for this lamp here so that it looks more gorgeous. For example, I'm going to put 15, okay, maybe even more, let's say 20. All right, so I have more contrast here, and it's just more attractive this way. So all the places are lit, and I also have contrast, warm lights, cold lights, everything. And I can also light up these two hanging lights. I can just use rec lights for them. So let's start doing that. I'm going to go to lights, and I'm going to choose rec light. Okay, put one here, change the angle so that it faces down, move it up. All right, find the right location, and I'm going to decrease the scale, width and height, 10 for example for each. Put these next ones at 0, and let's just tweak this too, and I'm going to make a copy, put it to the side, make sure both of them are on movable mobility so that the shadows are not interfering. And there, see how beautiful this side got too, and just perfect contrast. You know, we have different types of light, different sources of light at different locations inside our scene, and see how gorgeous our scene got with just these two rec lights here. Now let me tell you something. Right now, our rec lights, we can just see the reflection of our source of light, okay? The actual source of light. And if we want to hide that and make it more blurry, we can go to light, and under advanced, we can decrease the specular scale. And by doing that, you can see that we can fade out our source of light, and we can do the same thing with this rec light here. And if I decrease the specular size for this one too, okay, let me just select it, put it on movable so that we don't get interference in terms of shadows. Decrease the specular scale, okay, put it on 0. And now we don't see the sources of light, and that is more realistic. So as you can see, just a professional lighting for our nighttime. And even in real life, these dark spots, these dark corners need some halogens and halogenic lights. So we can use some spotlights here, and even like point lights. So I'm going to start with adding a point light here and explain that to you. So point lights work like very small spheres that just we can use in different parts of our scene, and they have the same options as the previous lights. We have, for example, intensity, we have source radius, we have attenuation radius that I want to change right now, make it a lot smaller, okay? And I also can change the intensity and also indirect lighting intensity to change the amount of light that I want to have in that vicinity. I also have this source radius and soft source radius that I want to explain to you right now. So let me just put it above this part, and pay attention to this white patch. And if I change the source radius, you can see that it gets bigger. 10, for example, 50, too much. Okay, let's yeah, so 40. See, I can change the size of this white patch, the reflection of that light. And I also can change soft source radius, which fades out this white patch for me, and I can just select how much I want this to be faded out. But the main question is, where do we use these spotlights? For example, we can use them inside these hanging lights. So if I hide these two rec lights that I put before, I can just drag this spotlight and put it inside this hanging light that I have on the right. Okay, so let me just do that. All right, so this, let me just change the placement so that it's just directly kind of inside. Okay, and now it's time to change the attenuation radius a little. So put 200, for example. Let's see. Okay, and I want to use a kind of warmer color for it, for example 3000, and I want to put it in intensity on 10. Make a copy of it, put it for the one on the left. Okay, and since I want these two lights to kind of light up this part of my building, I select both of them and increase the indirect lighting intensity, for example 10, 20, and even like 40. Okay, let's try 40. Beautiful. So this side of my apartment is just more bright, and I have more lights here, and that is generally preferable. So if you're not working with ray tracing enabled, if you don't have that option available to you, you may need to do something else. For example, you may need to add a rec light or two up here above these lights to light up this part. But I'm going to discuss that in another video. For now, let's just add a spotlight here and start talking about that. So I put it up here. This can resemble a halogen light for us, so we can just use it for that. And I deleted the previous one. I'm going to add another one here. So spotlight, put it here, move it up a little. Okay. Okay, as you can see, I have a group of lines here, and then actually I have two groups of lines. Let me just show you the other groups of lines. So there are two areas. I'm going to, if I increase the angle option here from 0 to a higher value, you can see the second group of lines that I have, and these lines basically show us the areas for the scattering of the light. So we have this inside area and this outer area, and the more we move from the inside toward the outside, we can just control that area. Let me just change the intensity too. You can see everything better now. So I can just decide how much or how I want my light to be scattered out. I can have sharp edges. I can have it be distributed kind of homogeneously. I can have a softer outer area, and these two groups of lines help me decide how I want my spotlight to light up that area. So maybe very intense in the center and softer on the outside, and I can just change the temperature too. Okay, so I have a lot of controls here. So let me just change the intensity to decrease it a little, for example around 50. Okay, and after I'm happy with it, I can just make a copy, put it on the right. Okay, and I can even just add two more on the sides, and they can all resemble halogen lights that we have on the ceiling, and all of them should be unmovable so that we don't have any interference in our shadows. And I can add two more here so that I have a total of 6 halogen lights right now, 2 more on the side on the left, 8 now, 8 spotlights. And I can just continue adding these halogen lights on the side, for example, 1 here, 1 there. Make another copy, put it here, and this way we don't have that many dark spots left. Okay, we can just fill up our whole scene with these spotlights, and you can see that our whole scene is kind of lit up adequately and beautifully. Now generally doing lighting for nighttime is more difficult, okay? But if you want to give your client some renders, some shots from your scene, make sure to include both nighttime and morning time or noontime renders so that they can see how that scene looks in different times of the day. So that is what I personally do for my own projects. And if I want to add something here real quick, is that these spotlights that we just added, you can just delete some of them and add some IES lights so that you get a different type of scattered lighting, a different shape. Maybe, for example, let me just delete this nearby spotlight. This one can be an IES light, and you can just put it to the side, but make sure that you don't just do something exaggerated. So let's just move it a little bit further away from the corner. Okay, and make sure that the reflection of that light is not too exaggerated and it looks realistic. Okay, so make sure that whatever source of light that you use, don't overdo it, and don't use too many of the same light sources, so that it just your scene becomes a banal and boring scene. So use moderation as a general rule of thumb, and contrast to make your scene attractive. So always aim for realism in your scenes. And let me just quickly show you how to add an IES light here. And to do that, you just simply go to this detailed panel on the right. So let me just under light profiles, we have this IES texture, and we already have some ready-made IES texture map available from Unreal, so we can use some of these. And we can also use one which we have downloaded before, for example one from this list that I have available to me. I'm going to drag it into my Unreal Engine, into content browser. Okay, let's just do it again. I'm going to drag it inside my content browser. The process is the same as the one that we used for our HDRI image, so let's just do it again. I don't know what the problem is. Let's just do it again. Drag it inside my content browser there. Okay, and now all we need to do is to select that light. So let me just get rid of some of these extra lights here so that we can see everything better. Delete them and select this light. Go to IES profiles, choose the one that we just added. And you can see the scattering of light for this one is kind of different. So make sure you use some IES lights in your work so that you add some variety to the lighting of your scene. Okay. All right. So so far we talked about all the different types of lighting that you can add to your scene. For example, point lights, spotlights, rec lights, directional lights, and HDRI backdrops. So sun and sky is the only option left. So before I show you how that works, let me just delete some of these lights. These are spotlights, for example, IES lights. Just delete everything, and make sure that you practice and work with all of these different types of lighting that we just worked on. And if you needed to record it, take a high resolution screenshot so that you can document the process, and just do this until you get the hang of it. So let me just delete these two I also need to delete the HDRI image, okay, and now we are ready. So by default, the sun and the sky are not present in game blanks. Now I'm going to go to lights and add sun and sky, put it here. And we also have some controls for the sun and sky elements that just works well together, sun and sky. But personally, I don't really like it that much. I can change the angle of the sun, for example, to let in some lights. Let's see, okay, there. Right now the exposure is just too high, and that is why we have these burnt lights here. So let me just change the exposure, decrease it, for example, put 1 here. Okay, let's check it out, maybe 3. And now we have better lighting here. But honestly, I don't really recommend using sun and sky unless you have this like apartment villa project that you want to start from outside and go inside the building. So if you have that kind of project, you can use sun and sky, and that is the only instance that I would use this sun and sky element for. However, I'm not personally a fan of using sun and sky. I don't really like the types of shadows that it gives me, but you can just use it if you need to use it and if you like it. So it's just a matter of preference. And it has some controls. The controls for this one is kind of based on location and time. For example, you have coordinates available to you that you can use, and also time zone, and it gives you a different type of light. So based on the location, the place, and the time that you give it, for example, a day in a month, it gives you a different kind of light. So you can just use it if you like to work with these types of controls. And you can even add further detail other than month and day. You can just change the hour. Okay, so let me just put it on 15. So this is like 3 p.m. Okay, this is what 3 p.m. looks like. And that is basically how you work with the controls of sun and element, which is kind of difficult, to be honest. And that is why I'm not a fan of using sun and element. But if you have to use it, this is the way to use this element. Alright, so we reached the end of this video, and we basically covered the most important options and elements required to do lighting for our scenes. In the next video, I'm going to teach you how to light the same scene, how to do lighting for the same scene without ray tracing enabled. So make sure that you watch that, and until then, I hope you practice, and I will see you in the next video.